In 2017, Snapchat went public. Why bring that up now? It was the last major social media IPO since last week when Reddit pulled the trigger on its own initial public offering on the New York Stock Exchange.
Heather thinks about software.
Though it was no secret that Reddit had been eyeing an IPO, its path to a public offering explains some of its recent changes to its API access policy, which caused a kerfuffle last year. If you want to know more, take a look at my video on the end card. At that time, Reddit changed its long-standing policy of free access to its APIs, causing several popular Reddit-based apps to say they would have to close down. In fact, 3 major apps, RedReader, Dystopia, and Luna, all got exemptions from the fee and still seem to be working. Reddit did this in an attempt to monetize that access or prevent other apps from free riding on its content, or maybe just as optics for its IPO investors. When companies are prepping for an IPO, they often start making changes to please the underwriters, and those changes don't always make business sense. In fact, it's not clear whether that change actually worked to improve Reddit's economics. Before the IPO, there was great skepticism about Reddit's revenue model, which as of today is ad-driven, and revenue from API licensors, if there is any at this point. But Reddit's current ROI on ads is quite low. Here's a chart from Charter, which is a newsletter I like a lot, showing the huge gulf between Meta and Reddit. In any case, the IPO did unexpectedly well, and shares were up 48% on the first day of trading. That means that those who purchased shares in the initial offering, investment bankers and other investors who had been lined up in advance, made a tidy profit. Now that Reddit has IPO'd successfully, at least for now, other social media platforms may be eyeing the big exit. Truth Social, Trump's social media platform, is reportedly planning an IPO at a valuation of $6 billion. Ironically, it's become a meme stock. Meme stocks are kind of a Reddit invention, or at least one of its side effects. These are stocks that become popular with retail investors through social media, often bought by young, inexperienced investors. The term meme stock was coined in early 2021 when GameStop and AMC skyrocketed due to Reddit-generated interest. Incidentally, an IPO by Truth Social might get Trump out of some of his current money problems, including the nearly $454 million in damages he owes because of a recent New York legal judgment of fraud in valuing his real estate holdings. Trump has appealed that judgment, but he still has to post bond of $175 million in order to appeal the case. Bond companies often require collateral, usually in the form of non-liquid assets like real estate, when issuing a bond. One more thing, Reddit's IPO got some headlines for offering some stock in the IPO to top moderators of subreddits, aka mods. While this move was hailed as revolutionary, it's actually quite common for companies to offer friend and family IPO shares to friends of the business. If the IPO goes well, the friends can cash out and make a tidy sum in a day or two. What do you think of Reddit's IPO? Does the company have an economic future? Tell me in the comments. Liking and subscribing makes me think more.
Heather thinks about software.